Hello.
Oh, Andrew,
Hello.
you naughty starter of the show, right in the middle. When Jack
That was a bit
about to do
premature
his
again.
intro.
Yeah. Pre-jizz. Hello and welcome to Let's Drone Out. Tonight we are joined by our Lord and Saviour, Andy /Frank.
Good evening.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
Back from Amsterdam, our man.
Hello.
Stephen.
Nice to see everyone.
And I am your host, Right Till I Fly. And if you are of a nervous disposition or suffer from high blood pressure, please leave and return to the show in about 10 minutes.
Skip the first few minutes. We'll skip over that.
So what's happened, Frank?
We've also got legal notice scrolling across the bottom here. Do not take legal advice from podcasts. That is also relevant.
Okay.
Yep. So this morning, promptly at 9 o'clock this morning, the CAA published their consultation reply document and their recommendations for regulations moving forward. So there was a consultation.
We all gave our feedback and we were all very thorough and very careful. So I imagine they really listened to us, haven't they? Tell us what they've done.
Yes, so they've had a good few thousand respondents, most of whom were over 70 odd percent were model flyers, 98% were men. And that's sort of, I'm just giving that as a bit of color, bit of context. Basically, everyone said, don't increase the regulations. Don't do remote ID. Just don't stress about it. Do simplify it. That's all we want is for you to simplify the rules that are already there. Make it clearer. So, of course, what they've said is that based on this overwhelming, singular feeling for what should be done with the regulations, they're going to bring in remote ID in 2028, and they are going to reduce the minimum weight limit for all the various requirements for like operator IDs and all that kind of thing from 250 grams to 100 grams. So I'm expecting in the next few days for there to be an announcement for the DJI Neo 99 Flake coming out. That's what I'm expecting. But there we go. That's just being slightly cynical about it all. They have, to be fair to them, they have agreed that they're gonna rename because there's a lot of like letter number characters going around across all the new regulations, and it is quite hard to keep straight what means what, how they all relate to each other. So they have decided that instead of going A1, A2, A3, they're going to go over people, near people, far from people. And that they're using over, near, and far instead of A1, A2, A3. So that's
really small. They're far away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we don't know for sure what remote ID is going to look like, but it's probably going to be the same that's in the EU and the US, where it's like a mix of Wi-Fi stuff and Bluetooth stuff. There's a lot on the market already that do those, that are, say, 90 or 100 local currency units that have, the GPS in them and the battery in them. But equally, there's 30 currency units will get you a board that will take from a flight controller. And it's just basically an ESP32, so you could probably end up making it yourself for fairly cheap as well, where it takes the GPS location and whatever else from your flight controller, you know, the serial number and a operator ID, and broadcasts that out over Wi-Fi and or Bluetooth to the local area so that it can be picked up with a phone. And that's sort of what the remote ID is looking like. I mean, it's probably going to be something like that. But
so this was you mentioned it was in a document. I didn't see where the document came from, but it's Wi-Fi Neighborhood Aware Network, or NAN.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of Wi-Fi broadcast type thing. Where
so this
surely
is the type
that
of thing
sounds
that you might use for beacons when you're walking around a shopping mall.
yes.
So
Wi-Fi
if you're
beacon
some
is
kind
the
of
other.
obsessive shopper, you can be spammed with deals from your favorite stores as you walk past them. And the thing about that is, the thing it's designed to achieve is to give you a connection when you are in very close proximity, like when you are walking within, say, 5 or 6 meters. And it's designed that if there's a lot of people in a very dense area, devices, instead of talking to an access point, which might be up in the ceiling, it may be quite a long way away, instead of everyone trying to talk to the access point, they kind of beacon to each other, and the messages can be spread from node to node in a mesh, if they need to be. What it is not, specifically what it is not, is a means of detecting anything from any marked distance. Like, this is less effective than using a Wi-Fi access point. This is lower range than a Wi-Fi access point. So if we're flying a quad, say in a bando, and we're struggling to get video reception, and we're struggling to keep control link with massive antennas, purpose designed, optimized with 1 watt output power, and our remote ID is using an ESP chip antenna with a little tiny zigzag on the PCB and 10 milliwatts of output power, there's no way in hell that anyone is going to be able to read this. So beyond writing reams of legalese and making everyone jump through a load of BS hoops to use what, to be perfectly honest, is probably going to be a built-in function in the chips that are in ExpressLRS receivers by the time this gets to market, just bloody pointless, because you're going to have to walk up to the quad, have it like within touching distance before you're going to be able to get a read on it. So why can't we just use a bloody sticker? I mean, it's totally dumb.
You're accidentally trying to implement logic into this. Do you think it will work better if we intend to wrap them in foil as well?
Oh yeah, I'm sure once you've put it in the body of the quad with your receivers the safest, as opposed to out the arse sticking in the air where you put your other antennas, it's going to be doing great. I'd recommend you put all your receivers between the frame and the biggest, thickest heatsink mounted VTX you can find. So
why aren't
just
paedophiles
crammed in there.
tracked? Why are we tracked?
But I think the newspapers just find us easy pickings, I guess.
But the thing is, no one outside of the drone world is going to know about any of this.
Yeah.
No one's going to care.
No one gives a fuck.
I mean, ultimately, none of this matters. There's bigger problems in the world.
Yeah, we're all going to end up with a new model of receiver, whether it's your Crossfire or ExpressLRS, and it's just going to use the new Espressif chip, and these functions are all built in on the latest generations of ESP chips. So you've got your extra little Wi-Fi, your extra little Bluetooth, and it's just going to give you a couple of dB of signal loss while it blasts out this stupid little 5 or 10 milliwatt signal that no one's going to be able to bloody read because it's going to be weaker than your telemetry link, and we'll all just move on with our lives, I hope.
Perhaps what we should do is just ignore it, because so far my number of run-ins with people being aggravated or the police are 0 in about 14 years. So I might just get a little box and write on it remote ID, and then have some wires coming out of it and push that in case anyone wants to inspect it. It's a bit like the box of the internet with the flashing red light.
Yeah.
For anyone not from the UK, that was a IT crowd reference.
Don't drop the internet, Jen.
I like to think that people in the US have watched the UK series of that and not the terrible attempt at a remake in the US they did.
Yeah, that was they only did the pilot, didn't they? And then they had to just can it.
I think
pretty
so.
awful.
I've only seen the pilot.
Yeah.
So
I mean-
again, the whole argument comes back to, okay, how is this going to help remove bad actors, as they call them? And it's the same thing as when they said we need registration. It's like the baddies aren't going to do it, so you're not going to be able to track them. Also, see, like, no one robs a bank using their own car just in case someone sees their registration number and can track them that way.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it does
security
mean
theatre.
a bit like a license plate. If you see a car without a license plate, you're fairly confident it's probably either up to no good or they've smashed into something.
But you just
So-
steal someone else's number plate. Does
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
here know of anyone who's had that happen to them?
Yeah,
Do you know how
of course.
difficult and bullshit it is?
Well, it's very trivial to take a number plate off, isn't it? It's like 2 screws.
I mean,
Or
it's-
double-sided
but-
tape,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The point, they clearly don't care. They've got the numbers saying the people who actually know and care about this have said we shouldn't do this, but we're doing it anyway. So it's gonna happen. Like, I mean, all the Facebook groups suggest everyone's going to ignore it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just a bit sad that, you know, we have to jump through all these hoops. And it's sad that so much of modern society relies on, like, security theatre, like, do this big palaver of standing around and shining lights into corners and not really doing anything instead of actually spending money on something more useful. But,
yeah. I agree with Caroline Tyler saying you have had your 10 minutes, move on.
The crowds become rowdy.
So, who's flown this past week?
You and
I've
Jack
done
have.
some flying. Yep. We went to Hidden Valley. It was lovely. It was sunny. It was not too hot. It was brilliant flying weather. We brought more projects to the field than we had people, and some of them even worked. It was great. The magic smoke stayed inside the things. The sea mists stayed clear of our flying area. The smoke we intended to release didn't come out, but that we're working on that. That'll come later.
is it still inside Jack?
That's why he's looking a
Yes,
bit
that
under the
look
weather.
about him.
I
He might just press a button and his head kind of folds back and this just giant jet of smoke erupts.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. I'm not gonna lie.
But yeah, I got to see inside the Dan lab, which is a fascinating thing to see in the middle of nowhere. That is, it is very industrial, very medical, very clinical.
Still can't figure out how to charge the sodding thing. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it at many flying locations. Be good.
Is there any exciting footage you can share?
Is there any exciting footage I can share? I might be able to. Let me
Do you
give
need
it a
us
go.
to fluff whilst you look for footage?
Jack, quick, power
Go for
flat.
it, yeah.
I didn't use a GoPro on any of my stuff. I didn't even use my GPS quad because I spend longer waiting for the GPS fix than flying it.
Oh.
So
Who's
these meters instead.
That's a crispy.
Someone's cut you a handy runway there.
It's good, isn't it?
Did you bring a
Yes.
lawnmower with you?
No.
We just brought
Nail
some quads and glue
Hold
them
them
poorly.
upside down on the grass.
Yeah.
Under it.
Yeah, as you can see, lovely day. Seemingly
nice.
not a cloud in the sky.
Oh, cloud.
It's great. Yeah.
Is this you, Frank? You've been
this is
modifying
me.
more stuff for DJI, I see.
Yes. So this is an OGA unit on a motion sick badass gimbal, although it's not actually used at this point. It's just pointing straight ahead, but the point is it didn't go mental, so that's good. And it's on an FMS Cub, which is too big to bring in here. But yeah, it's good fun. I've been flying the Cub line of sight for ages, and then prompted by Andy RC telling me I should stick a gimbal and head tracking on it, I have done that. I didn't get head tracking working for when we went flying, but so I was just getting the FPV going, making sure that was all happy.
Mhm.
So this first flight, I think, is just where I was flying line of sight and Jack was in the goggles, making sure I hadn't messed something up or the antennas were broken or something awful like that. Just making sure everything was happy.
Looks pretty.
Yeah. It was good fun. And then I did some flying FPV, but without the pan tilt or head tracking doing anything useful. It's I very much enjoyed it. And the Cub's got these big bush wheels, so I could actually land on the grass and like taxi around and take off again. It's great fun. Very much enjoyed it.
It's a dream of mine to land a plane with wheels and not have it fall over on its nose. I've never accomplished this yet. But I've never taken off anywhere that wasn't like knee deep in grass, so it's a bit tricksy.
Yeah. I mean, I did keep to the shorter bits of grass where all the vehicles go back and forth, all the quad bikes and stuff that the farmers use. But yeah, I could take off and land. Very exciting.
So next step, you're going to start moving your head around. Is that on the cards?
Yeah, exactly. So after speaking with John Lancaster, I bought the motion sick head tracker, which is called something like the Tally-Ho head tracker. And I have been fighting that to get that working. So the easiest way to do it and most reliable way to do it is with a cable between like a trainer cable, just a TRS, or is it just a tip sleeve cable, 3.5mm cable anyway, between the head tracker and the DSC port, the trainer port. So I've got the Radio Master TX16S, and I couldn't get it to work. I was like, oh, this thing's broken and awful. And then was looking around, and Painless has put out a video about the TX16S trainer port. In the Mark 1 TX16S, the trainer port is this very weird socket where the contacts aren't in the right place unless you use a very, very specific cable. So the solution is to open it up and bend the contacts back so that it actually makes contact.
At least you didn't need to get a completely new socket, I suppose.
Exactly. They do sell the replacement of the Mark II one, which has a normal socket, so you could do that way if you really wanted to. But for 5 minutes, opening it up, bending a contact, and it all working, I was happy with that. And then the other challenge is that I haven't entirely solved this yet. It seems like I've found an answer, but so it sort of gets curious about something in a different direction occasionally when I was testing it. When I finally got it working. So it's you sort of, it works and responds normally, and then just 30 seconds later, for no apparent reason, it just drifts off about 45 degrees, sits there for a little bit, and then slowly wanders back. Is
there a reset button on it? Because that's what I noticed, that I tried head tracking on my HD0 goggles, and it's like, this is working. Then suddenly it go off, and I have to look like that to be straight. And I was like, oh, there's no reset. Like on the old head trackers that went in the Fat Sharks, I think you had a recenter button or something where it just go to the middle, and that seems to be missing from modern ones.
This one does have a reset button, which also acts as an enable disable button, which I didn't realize to begin with. So I was like, oh, It's still not outputting anything. Why is it not outputting anything? And then you
Turn
have
it off.
to, is a long hold and release to enable it. So that's good to know. But yeah, so it had this weird drifty thing. I couldn't understand what was going on. Andy RC had ideas. John had ideas. Loads of people have had loads of ideas. It seems like the most likely thing is just that it has some kind of like the gyro in it, like needs to warm up. That seems to be the thing. So if you just turn it on and leave it for a bit and let it warm
It'll
up.
calibrate, but not immediately. After a period of 20 minutes stretching out in the sun, it'll calibrate.
Yeah, exactly. It seems a bit, which makes me a little uncomfortable with it. But the fact that it does have the disable thing does at least give a sort of a fallback. But yeah, I will be testing this out more thoroughly next week. That is the long term thing. SPV in the chat says later versions of the code is bugged and compass drifts. Best fix is to disable compass. Well, I've got the version of the code that starts off with the mag disabled to begin with, so that is definitely not the problem. But
What would you use a compass
the
for
real
with a
problem
head
is, I
tracker
don't know.
anyway? I mean,
again, a kind of like
Just in case you want
sense
to
checker.
point north all the time.
you're right. Are you a sundial or an aircraft? What's going on?
Funnily enough, I was having a problem with an accelerometer when it got hot on a little whoop where if I crashed it or the board got hot, then the accelerometer would stop working completely. And this is, I'm in angle mode flying a whoop in my house. I arm it and I go up and it just flips over on the floor, which is kind of the opposite of what should be happening, which was diagnosed to be, we think your chip's faulty or as a dodgy solder connection because it shouldn't work like that. But that's kind of like some old stuff got a bit different when it warmed up, didn't it? The gyros worked slightly.
Yeah, that's what slightly leaves me a bit unsatisfied about this explanation, is that this sounds like a thing that used to happen 10 years ago and isn't a thing I'm aware of happening more recently. And this is a fairly new board. Like, it's using the Arduino Nano 33 or something. And it's like, it's a fairly recent board. I feel like it shouldn't have an old problem. And I feel like it would be a problem with the Arduino board, not with this particular product made with the Arduino board. So I'm slightly sensing bullshit, but we'll find out. I'll continue investigating, try and pin down. But I haven't been able to reliably replicate it, which is, the most important thing. We're trying to diagnose a problem, right?
The tracker boards are swappable, so you could always find a different solution. And as long as you've got a nice gimbal, just find something else.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. Easily make one or do something
got
else.
those DJI goggles. You could consider what Andy RC was doing. He had one solution where he mounted kind of inside the goggles, where they used to have screw-on antennas that would go on the front of those goggles. And I think there's a head tracker 3D print mount that clamps on there as well.
With the sort of where the digidapter type stuff goes.
Where the digidapter stuff goes. Yeah. And then you do a power splitter into it.
Well, this one's like bolts into where the head strap goes onto the V2 goggles. So it's very attached. It's just it has some characteristics that I'm not familiar with.
With Arduino projects that kind of get abandoned or superseded or forked, and you're never quite sure.
Well, that's the thing. It's a very live project. Like there's lots of people working on it right now. It's not an old head tracker thing that's just been around for ages. Like this is new thing. So this is it is literally just called Head Tracker, and the product is the Motion Sick Tally Ho, but it's based on
the Arduino thing. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so the Arduino project is called the Motion Sick.
No, so the project using either ESP32s or Nano 33s or whatever else, whatever board it is, whatever board you like, basically, is just called Head Tracker.
Not Head Tracker RX.
Don't think so. I think it's just called Head Tracker. That's definitely what the Discord is called anyway.
There's a whole bunch of different Head Tracker projects that are all forks of different things. So I'm not sure which one you're looking at. That's all. And there a lot of them are forked from things that are forked from some guy who is trying to do a general purpose like Bluetooth adapter board.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of mention of Bluetooth everywhere. But I do not need Bluetooth.
Yeah, I had to go soldering in a Bluetooth board to my FR Sky when I had it open, and it was just trash. But, I got one of the FR Sky boards, or something that claimed to be an FR Sky board. Yeah, it was not an experience. Oh, Head Tracker / Head Tracker. I've got your Soldac / Head Tracker. Head Trackers.
So many Head Trackers.
Head Tracker / Head Tracker. Well, it certainly does what it says. Cool. Looked like a nice day.
Yeah, it was a lovely day. And it was fun flying. Enjoyed
Dan's
it.
a bit out of action. Regards for tomorrow, because his turbos died, I think. So I don't know when I'll next be out. But apparently next week we should be able to fly with Dom or D1. No, D2. So sorry, there's 3 Ds I'm on the Thursday night show tonight, by the way, so if anyone fancies a bit of the old 80s retro new wave, please come and join me. Remind me to forward people in the chat, but 11 till 1. Somehow I've got to survive that without dying.
Good luck.
I know. I need all the luck. Sorry, I'm slowly dying.
I did just remember that I did actually fly something while we were out staying somewhere at Devil's Punch Bowl, but it was just one of the DJI camera quads, so it doesn't really count, as it's like it's going away from us over the trees. Here's what's over the top of the lip at the end. It was quite dull.
Have you not had any new stuff to review yet? How are you getting on with the new goggles?
Well, I've only got one quad that uses them. I keep dropping hints to various companies. Like, hey, you wanted me to test something 2 years ago using DJI goggles. I have some now. Can I have it? No.
No, stop making all that stuff.
Yeah, we've given up with that. Yeah, no, I've been finishing off some edits for some tech stuff this week, and I got a new tiny helicopter that was I talked about it so long ago. I had to go through my emails to find out who it was from. I think I found out, but yeah, it's not terribly exciting. And I've just rebuilt my wing again after smashing it into that post 2 times. And I'm like, I shan't give up. I will launch it into the air, or I will set fire to it. One of the two.
It's got to that point,
easiest. Yes. It doesn't need to be either or. I mean,
you'll work or you'll die. It's a threat. So now he's scared. A scared wing is one that flies. That's my feeling. Yeah, I realise I haven't done any fixed wing flying for a while. So next time I go to the field, I want to make sure I take more than one wing, because then if I smash that into the ground, I'll have a different one to fly, and that'd be more fun.
Yeah. As a note, so Numbskull in the chat has reminded me, Popham is this weekend. The Popham Model Air Show this weekend. on Monday this week, I was helping start to set up the tent for some tiny whoop flying in the big top that they have at Popham for their summer events. So there's a big old track. I've also left them with some trophies. So there's some trophies for the tiny whoop flying. So if you're interested in some tiny whoop racing, then that is going to be there this weekend, along with all sorts of model flying. I think I've seen some people who may be in the chat say they were going to bring along some stuff to sell, but I don't think there's any official FPV shops going. But it'll all be out the back of a car, or possibly in like some long coat. And people will be sort of bringing a load of like props and motors and batteries and things. But there'll be loads of like the sort of model stores going. Just maybe not so much tiny whoop or general FPV stuff. Yes, he is in the chat. Marshall McFly has a load of stuff to buy. So if you're going to pop him this weekend and want some FPV stuff, maybe go speak to him.
Any old iron? Sorry.
Exactly.
How I imagine it to be. And 2 rights.
I'm kind of enthused about building tiny quads again. So one upshot of this recent annoying news is that I think it's great to build tiny little 2.5 inch park flyers. So I'm probably going to try a few more of those. I've got parts on the bench, so it's going to be a summer project.
Is it under 100 grams?
I think you can do it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them ended up being about 120, but I fly them with like 450 Mar 3S, and if you go down to like a 300 3S, that's probably going to be under 100. Yeah, just got to get a bit of walk snail in there and try and make it so it doesn't fall apart too easily.
It's such a shit fest, isn't it?
It's not great, but I mean, I did enjoy flying that type of quad an awful lot to start with, so I think it's going to be a fun thing to fly at least.
I think it just depends the sort of places you've got. Like I love taking a whoop just in the quite dense woods and just flying it around the trees there, which you definitely couldn't do on a 5-inch, or you could do, but it would be quite short-lived and involve a large noise, sounding like a saw hitting some wood.
It involves prizing quads out of quite close contact with the trees, using bits of other tree. The good thing about small quads like that in forests is that they never go fast enough to get like truly stuck into something. Like at most, you're just gonna be able to waggle a branch and it comes down. Nice.
I'm sure I could find a way of totally screwing it up.
I wasn't gonna go there. I mean, obviously, like a professional such as yourself, Jack, would be able to find a way of getting it right.
I mean,
there.
I once got a chair stuck in a tree.
It needn't say anymore. At this point, I think you've absolutely proved your case.
I think finding quads when they're small in the woods is the more difficult thing, especially if there's leaves on the floor and your quad is this big. It's
beepers don't really work through like leaf mulch.
No. Not when it's those tiny little motors.
And you're like, it beeped. It's definitely around here somewhere. But is it actually in this direction? Yeah.
I've
Sorry, go ahead, Frank.
I've never had much luck with the whoops. I feel like they're slightly more delicate on the electronic side than I ever expect them to be. And it always seems like I slightly push a battery a little bit too far and something browns out and then something dies and it's like loses all its settings and I have to like go back to flashing it like with a bootloader or something because I've managed to wipe something very important, or like the motors just burn out, or just I feel like they're not quite as resilient. I don't get as many packs through them per taking apart and putting back together again.
They definitely are. Like this is the Air 65. I was flying this about a week ago and the video's just come out tomorrow. and it's squishy. It flexes, but you can't get enough like kinetic energy to actually bash it on something. But this is a problem. I was flying this out, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can reach the bluebells over there. So you start going through some trees, and then like hit a piece of scraggle, and then you fall down upside down and leaves, and you're like, oh dear, because I'm not sure where that is, and it's quite far away. So it's, on this one, it's somehow I managed to flip it over and get back, and then I had this massive leaf and like green moss all over it. But it's like I have to play like get my telemetry radio and look at the dB for the RSSI, and you start going about trying to.
Yeah,
it's like
it's a bit
this
dicey.
that, and the only way I can make it make a noise is to arm it, and I can hear the motors like whiz up somewhere. It's like, where is that? Must find it. I got there the other day. There was this big hawk sat on a branch looking at it. I think he was just about to take it to his chicks, but we got it back. But this,
Sorry, your video's blacked out. I don't know if anyone else is seeing this.
oh,
So yeah, I thought that might have just been mine end.
can you still hear me?
We can hear you fine, but you went black just midway
Oh.
through your anecdote.
My camera's just turned itself off. Let me turn it back on. There I am.
There you are. Hello, Gary.
I don't know what happened there. It got bored, my camera, and it's like this sounds like shit, and just went to sleep, which is fair.
The conversation just checked out
Yeah.
like a tired
It's
grandpa in an armchair.
This is dead.
It's
Yeah,
like your accelerometer.
I
It's
do-
warmed up. I've had enough.
Yeah, I do
Quite.
like quads that are small, light enough to feel like it's a tiny 5-inch that you can fly around. I've had so many whoops that are a bit heavy, and like whenever you like
Oh, yeah.
spin or something, you got like full power just to get it back.
You
These
can't do
little-
a flip unless you're like 5 meters up.
Yeah. This little Air Series, they're only like 5 grams lighter than the regular one, but 5 grams is about like over a quarter of its weight. So they're really fun. I like those.
Yeah, I definitely felt that the 65mm was a challenging build. Like you need to get a really perfect list of parts, or go to a vendor that has it down, like Beta FPV or probably the modular series.
Yeah. There's like a single board in that one
Yeah,
and a camera,
Need a single
which is
board.
pretty easy, isn't it?
you don't really want a separate VTX at all if you can on a 65mm. I think when you get to 85mm, like you can do a lot at that point, but you're not going to be under 100 grams, I guess, with an 85mm whoop, are you? It's just not going to happen because of all that plastic.
No, and I suppose as you get a bit bigger, you probably want to up the power as well, which means heavier parts, which sort of destroys the under 100, but screw that.
We're all going to learn how to. The trouble is, then in just 3 years' time, they'll be like, oh, fuck, 50 grams, you know.
Yeah, not going back to it, but I'm guessing there wasn't any actual reasoning to say 250 grams is bad, let's go back to 100, because surely they would have measured, like, how fast can a 250 gram go? What sort of damage can it do?
No, I don't think they
Oh.
did.
Actually, it can kill people. Go down to 100.
You're assuming like a lot of work on the other side of the equation. I really don't think. I think they just want to systematically ban people from flying, and they're going to make it harder and harder over a number of years with progressively stricter law enforcement. And we can try and rationalize it all we want, but that's their agenda. So that's where we are.
The only work they did was to cunningly ignore every comment that everybody made.
Yeah. Let's pick what 85% of people say we shouldn't do and do that.
Yeah.
Because we've got the mandate from 14% of people that either didn't care or grudgingly admitted it.
Yeah. The one I particularly didn't have much success with was the Mobular 6. That was the one that I've managed to, every time I fly it, I managed to,
know you
it
took
stops
that out
becoming
with
a
us.
quad.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
decides, I don't like being a quad anymore. Flash me with something else. I want to be some other device.
That was definitely on the cheap end of the scale. I remember that.
So it's like
what happened with that? Is it you run the battery down really low and then it wipes its own memory?
Yeah, it loses some EEPROM or something, and then it's just it ends up like wiping whatever firmware is on it. It doesn't have that firmware on it anymore. So the VTX works, but the flight controller is no longer a flight controller.
What you've got there is a Gen Z quad. It wants to identify as a tricopter or something.
So I recently heard about this with SSDs because people were starting to raise sort of specters of concern that when we had HDDs, spinning disks, that they're storing magnetic data, right? So there's literally a magnetic field that's being flipped, and it's fairly permanent. But so people recently with SSDs have been saying, well, if you store them for a couple of years, you do get a bunch of file system errors, and the more wear there is before you start storing it, the worse those errors are. And because the way you're storing data on an SSD is you're pushing all these electrons, charged particles, through an insulator and just hoping that they stay there and that they don't break back through the insulator. So you put a large voltage, which is like electric pressure, and you push the electrons through an insulator and you leave them on this charge little spot that effectively records a bit of data. And they can't then get back through the insulator because they lack the voltage, the electric energy to push back through the insulator. So they should stay there. But what happens is that operation, by pushing things through the insulator repeatedly, you do weaken it, and it's not perfect to start with. So they're more inclined to forget their state over time, which means that flash memory does have this tendency to just get a little bit senile. It's not great. And I think this is what we see with a lot of our quads, that if the flash isn't amazing quality to start with, and they're probably not the price we're paying for them, then if you leave them stored without power attached for a long time, this will tend to not get rewritten and will tend to kind of leak to the point where there's some obviously bad bits that can't be corrected by whatever error corrections in there. And then you plug it in and it's just like, yeah, I don't have any config. Sorry, bye.
Or it could become self-aware. Like the program
I think it's a
degradation.
bowl of petunias or something. You never know.
Back up your files off-site, everybody.
Yeah. Just back up. So when you get your quad and you think it's fantastic and you love the way it flies, plug it into the configurator and just do a backup. Put that somewhere. Put that with your family photos or wherever you keep things, and just keep that with the name of the quad on it, and you'll be able to find it. And if this does happen, all you've got to do is get that backup, push it back onto the quad, and you're in business.
Well, I've never got the Whoop into a state that I like it, so I won't be doing that.
It was great value at the time. I remember that, Frank. It was a very good, very.
Well, it wasn't even
value.
that. I just asked all the Whoop people, what should I buy as a Whoop? And everyone said, buy the Modular 6. And so I did, and I think they lied.
It's probably good at the time. I had a Modular 7. I don't think I ever had a 6.
I think I had an 8. Or was that the one before the Modular series? I have like the one with the metal hoops instead of plastic, like alloy hoops.
Wow.
Yeah, they're very delicate because you've got everything on the one board: the VTX, the receiver, ESCs, flight control. Everything's just crammed into there, so that there's a lot that can go wrong. I've screwed up a couple of beta FPV ones just trying to change the power plug because I wanted to get a PH2 because all my batteries are PH2. So I was like, oh, I'll just unsolder the battery lead and put another one on. And there were a couple of passives like right next to the battery lead. I just knocked one of them off and screwed the whole board.
Oh
fun.
dear.
Yeah.
No.
I hate being on those tiny boards. I can't remember which one it was. It was not a particularly up-to-date one, but there's one where there's like a few contacts around the sides, and then the one I want, there's two tiny ones that are in between these chips that are like 1 mil apart, and I had to go down to the tiniest soldering iron just to actually work on it, and then put the whole lot under a microscope, and then try it every time on, like, before turning it on. And it was just pure luck that it actually worked, and they didn't shoot each other out.
I've definitely had some little Whoop boards where I've gone, so let's save some weight. I'll solder the motor wires on. And the space between the motor wires is just so small that you can't tell if they're making contact or not. And you can't. they're all attached to the other end on the motor. So you just got to fucking fire it up and like yank the power if anything bad happens. It's not good. Spicy.
Fun times. So, aside from Frank going to Popham, is anybody future plans for flying the upcoming week?
Yes. Next week, I am with my reduced employment. I'm taking the time to spend the whole week going scale FPV flying with John Lancaster and his model
His
squadron
bomber.
crew.
Ah,
Exactly.
nice.
Exactly. So, hence working on getting the head tracking going, getting the pan tilt going. That's why I've had to get that going for next week so that I can actually join in this time. So that is where I will be, is going up to Buckminster and flying some stuff for them. That is my plan for the week.
Nice.
Sounds like a solid plan.
I like it. I've got a gimbal somebody sent me. I'm thinking maybe I should put that on a plane. That might be interesting. Doesn't really go on a quad, so I might as well go on a plane. More buildy stuff.
What about you, Jack?
I don't know.
Have you got anything on your bench that you can talk about that isn't acetone or isopropanol?
Ant powder. It's delicious, but it gives me headaches.
Well, I've got sherbet, so I won't have to resort to the ant powder. But I understand if you want that tingly taste and you're out of sherbet, ant powder's the way to go.
Makes you nose itch, though, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. But
No,
you've got to
it
get the
gives me
ants out first, right? I mean, really, before you start complaining about the itching.
It does feel like an episode of Archer. It's like, that's how you get ants.
So, yeah, Jack's been experimenting with web dashboards, haven't you, Jack?
I've been struggling with that. Thank you. Your help is immense.
We were like Space Bear, Voltron, and just slapped at the various options available in Grafana until we enabled the correct settings.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. Grafana's fun. It's a good little puzzle game.
Yeah.
I know I want this outcome. I can take one of three paths. Which will you do? Will you go for the swinging axis? Will you jump over the alligators? Or will you walk the endless desert?
It seems to be the desert for me every time.
Endless desert every single time. Where you're like, someone said I could do this. It's just a series of logical steps from now until the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, and my subordinate turns around and says, "It'll get easier when you have all the information there." And I'm like, "What? What? We're not recording everything." I'm like, "What?"
That's like life, isn't it? It'll get easier once you know everything.
All about.
Oh dear. Has anyone in the chat got any other events coming up? Any builds they're excited about? Any new releases they've spotted?
I noticed Carolina's talking about going for a flying break in Wales. That sounds fun.
Careful,
Absolutely.
there's Welsh people there. Hey, Win, how you doing?
Be careful.
I'm allowed to say that. I lived there for many years. So it's a shithole, but it was my shithole.
It's not all a shithole. I've heard very positive things about Bridgend, Jack. They say it's the party capital of Wales.
Oh, mate, it was truly a happy place. I do struggle with my demons from there.
Oh dear.
We should go for a road trip once.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
there
if
are some
Tony doesn't
beautiful
get
places
married.
to fly. That's the other side. There's plenty of big old valleys and stuff to go flying down.
Watch out for the fighter jets that occasionally come along at lower altitudes that I was flying, and I didn't expect a jet to suddenly go.
Yeah, they definitely take the approach that altitude is measured from the lowest bit that they can find in the surrounding area, not from, say, directly onto the jet. I think that's the.
That's the last land to it major I heard a story once that they crashed a like Land Rover or Jeep so badly into one of their barracks that they couldn't remove it. They had to cut the Jeep away from it, and parts of it were still. How were you born in Bridgend, Clive? What the hell? I thought you were English. You make no sense. You're a mystery to me. Or is it a place in England called Bridgend? I thought there was only one.
Says he had to return home once for Chinnakon's Snowdonia, which sounds like a dish, and maybe an elaborate dish involving some sort of spinning pasta topped with a large amount of snowy parmesan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just trying to imagine what Chinnokon Snowdonia is like, or it's a absolutely profane move that we can't.
Sounds
talk
like a
about
fancy
on the
Indian.
podcast.
Chinook with a naan bread.
Like the Cleveland steamer.
Careful, Curry will name his next cat.
Oh, dear.
I
So
killed it.
I'm just trying to find anything.
Lost
So
T1 in Landwick Major. I mean, now it's just like the crow is flying. It's all just code now.
Double L, isn't it? Ugh, noise.
What's a T1? A T1 was like an early internet connection, so presumably they were laying
As in-
fiber in Wales.
I mean, there's the Hawk T1, which is what the red arrows fly, right?
Oh, right. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
Tornado. Which stands for tornado?
Used to have T1s and E1s that were early fiber connections. The olden days.
I think. I
Makes more
don't
sense
know.
if it's an
I'm
aircraft.
sure of all people, Clive would be able to tell us.
Live.
Oh,
One Ranger.
T1 Ranger
Okay.
Ah.
got distracted by full scale stuff, which does happen occasionally.
I still maintain that the Chinnokon Snowdonia is probably a fantastic table centerpiece that everyone would love if they're gathering around at Christmas.
The thing about Chinooks is it's like the most well-recognized helicopter noise. It's got that real thud, 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 thud as one comes along.
It's got a whole lot of
Yeah.
rotor going on, baby.
Yeah. You can
Wow.
tell that one from a distance.
With all
There's-
this upbeat, tippity-toppity, amazing, not dead air at all.
we've got a lot to talk about this week.
I'm so tired.
I'm so sorry about me. I did say I was dying.
I feel like I'm going to sneeze any second, which is challenging.
It's been so bad. I'm on my second lot of laundry. That's how bad it's been. It's been
Oh, jeez.
quite spectacular.
It's going to save some time. Put yourself in the bathtub and just hose yourself down and stay naked. It's the only way
I
forward.
know.
Oh, don't give us a visual image. Oh. Here's something. This is going to go out there on a tangent, but I feel like we've run out of stuff.
Yeah.
My wife cannot visualize things, and I thought
Oh, she's
everybody
fantastic.
can do that. Is that what
Yes,
it's
fantastic, isn't it?
Hey, fantastic.
well,
fantastic?
aphantasia is a lack of being able to imagine something, such as visual imagery.
And she doesn't believe that people can. So when you say, I can close my eyes, I can see that. And she's like, don't be stupid. All you can see is black. There's nothing there.
Well,
Which I find
I don't.
fascinating.
But
When
doesn't
I
she have
close-
echoic memory? Echoic memory isn't the same as imagination. So if you're looking at something and you close your eyes, you should be able to conjure an image of the thing you're looking at just from memory.
No, she doesn't
Well,
have that.
She can't.
Not at all.
She can't do that. It doesn't work. And if you
When-
say that you can, then she doesn't believe you. She thinks everyone's lying. And she
When
gets
I-
occasionally sent on these like retreats with work, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to do a visualization session," and she's just like throws her hands in the air, like, well, "This is no good." Leaves.
Yeah, there's-
When
That's
I
cruel.
close my eyes, I don't see black. I get all
When
like,
I
the
close
coloured
my
patterns and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
you can get like colors and stuff right, to effective things. If you
Yeah.
really concentrate
Right.
on it, you can.
Yeah, a bit of
No.
remove
Like
colours.
when I close my eyes, that I can literally see that. Like it's like a weird sort of TV static that's colourful.
Interesting.
I noticed that when it's very
Sorry,
dark,
Frank.
I can see in quite well in the dark, but there's like a noise that becomes quite prevalent, like colour speckles. That's always fun.
What were you going to say, Frank?
I was going to say there's a good Curious Cases with Rutherford and Fry episode about aphantasia, and I think that was the one as well where I heard about this idea that there's kind of this spectrum that everyone lies on between aphantasia and synesthesia, and that they're like
Synesthesia
Yeah.
sounds awesome. I'd love to see music bursting out in colours
You
and
hear
stuff.
bubble wrap and you're like, oh, that tastes of strawberries.
Yeah.
The sound is strawberries.
Oh, Caroline's another one. She can't do mental images either. There's more people than you think can't
Yeah.
visualize things. It's really weird because I was like, what happens when you read a book? Because if you can't see this thing happening before you, then it's just a bunch of words. And she's like, yeah, what do you see? I was like, I see it like a film happening when I read a book. Weird.
Maybe this is why some people just don't go for books and they go for comic books instead. Maybe that explains the difference.
You
That,
just read it.
I found on phosphorensis or something.
Lost friends.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of what I see,
Ah.
like a weird sort of.
So you get like a test card essentially, like BBC Two thing.
Yeah, it's a weird. Yeah,
And the monkey and everything.
Sort of like
Yeah.
TV patterns. Yeah, staticky.
Do you
but
also
they're
get like music
coloured.
playing in your ears if you're sort of left in the too quiet a sound?
I know I do have a inner monologue as well.
What's his name?
It's I don't know. It's very cynical, and sometimes it gets really annoying because it says the things I'm saying alongside what I'm saying them, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
I've got like a bit of a doubled. Yeah.
It's a problem sometimes because it suggests bad things.
Thank you, Zero.
Inappropriate things to say.
Oh
Must
yeah, all
kill
the time.
everybody.
Typically at work when people are being fucking useless and they just have to sort of.
Tony's had an industrial accident and is bleeding everywhere. I wonder if the paramedics are going to find it highly inappropriate if I start masturbating right now.
Or if you draw something in the blood.
Well, having
You have to edit
exposed
that
far
out.
too much of Stephen and Jack's inner psyches on the show, I think that's about time to call it. I think, guys.
Don't, if you have an accident
Steve.
and after you've called the ambulance for your friend, whatever you do, don't start doing an artwork in their blood. It never looks good. They'll just smudge it.
Jack, do you want to read us out?
Oh God. I hope, Curry, you liked my hair tonight.
It's very good. It's early comb
Very
over,
creative,
just in case it starts disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already gone grey. Frank took a photo of it.
We want the full Cure look next time, Jack. Like, full kind of goth face paint and,
Yeah.
frilly.
I did
frilly
that
tufts.
once for Andy RC.
I think he should straighten it and bring back Janet.
Yeah. I can do. Anyway, you've been listening to Let's Show Now. Thank you to all our lovely patrons who keep this show on the road. We desperately need your help. If you like this and you listen to it audio only and you like the fact it's lovely and edited and funny and well put together and there's no dead air and the swear words are beeped out, please consider becoming a Patreon. You now and again sometimes get some bonus podcasts and interesting behind the scenes and get to come
Haircare
to some of
tips
the
from Jack.
events and haircare tips from me. And sometimes you receive artworks of mine that you can put on your fridge drawn in
Or free catnip.
Microsoft Paint. And you've been joined by everyone's favourite curry kitten,
Bye.
the man with the moustache Stephen,
Thank you and good night.
Our saviour Frank.
Bye.
And I've been Right to My Fly. Thank you and good night.
Bye.